Put your shoes on, go. Don't talk to me, don't text anyone. You can text people when you get to the emergency room. Hello everybody and welcome to my new video. I'm Leia, I'm the Disabled Reporter, and if you don't know, a year ago today I almost died from diabetes. So I thought that it was important to talk about this story, my diabetes story, and I didn't know when or how. When I created my channel, I had been diagnosed with diabetes for about 2 months. And I was really struggling with whether or not I was going to make it part of my identity, part of my online disability identity. I didn't have diabetes when I created the Disabled Reporter brand. I actually had a lot of undiagnosis because I wasn't diagnosed with any of my stomach conditions. I didn't have diabetes. I wasn't diagnosed with hypermobility spectrum disorder. I knew about the term miserable malalignment syndrome, but I didn't necessarily identify with that term. I still don't necessarily identify with that term, even though it's clearly what I have. I have a weird combination of the two, of MMS and HSD, that interact with each other and cause me problems. But I think that the diabetes was probably the most difficult of the diagnoses to get. Number one, because diabetes is absolutely chronic illness. I talked about that in my diagnosis discussion video. We oftentimes ignore diabetes as being a chronic illness because we think of it as being common. However, just because it's common doesn't mean it's not a really serious chronic illness that can cause you really serious problems. That's why, even though I feel like crap today, I am still drinking my Boost. This is a Boost glucose control. I bought these, I decided I didn't like them, but I still have 3 of them to use up, so I will be using them up today. So my diabetes story starts probably around Labor Day of 2021. On that day, I went to the water park here in town. Yes, I was floating around, swimming around, and I felt bad. I felt weak. And I had been having these episodes of feeling weak for over a year, or I guess not at that point, not over a year. I guess at that point it had only been about 6 months. But I had been having these episodes. We didn't know what was wrong with them. My blood sugar always tested fine. My A1C had just been tested about a month earlier. It was 6.2. You're going to quickly learn that something changed. And I ate something and it didn't make me feel better, so I went home. I continued to not feel great over the rest of the month, but it wasn't really until September 27th that something happened. And that something was that I got these really, really bad stomach cramps. And they were quite painful, and I was actually in the middle of a city council meeting, and I did something that I never do. In the entire 3.5 years, I think I did this maybe once, other than this time. I got up in the middle of a presentation and I went to the bathroom. And I sat there in pain for about 10 or 15 minutes. I don't know how long. I didn't take my phone because I had left my phone to record the meeting. And I sat there and sat there and sat there and didn't feel good, didn't feel good, didn't feel good. And then I got up. I went back and I decided I can't do this. I can't hide in the bathroom for the rest of this meeting. I'm going to get up, go back in, and when this discussion item is over, I'm going to gather my things and leave, which is what I did. I felt bad because I actually missed an entire, there were 2 companies presenting something and I missed an entire presentation because I was in the bathroom during the presentation. That's why I know I was in there for about 15 minutes. And so I went there, I went in, I got my things, and I left. I felt bad. I never left before, but I did. I went home, I laid down, and I curled up in a little ball in pain. And I worked the next day, but it was quite difficult because I was still in a lot of pain. And then I just was not doing well. I had no clue of what this could be. So I called my doctor and I said, I need to get in. I'm having stomach problems. And they said, okay, come in Friday. It's a good thing that I didn't wait until Friday. So I went through that rest of the day, not doing well at all. And I ended up going. I ended up doing what I could at work, but it wasn't great. The next day, I started the day by going to physical therapy. I told my physical therapist what was going on, and he said, I think you need to call your doctor and tell them you cannot wait until Friday. You need to get in today. You're in a lot of pain. You can't do anything here in physical therapy because you're in too much pain. They need to figure it out. Thankfully, I was able to call and say, hey, look, this is what's going on. I'm in an incredible amount of pain. I need to be seen. And they said, okay, come back in 2 hours and we can see you. So I went home. I did a little bit of work. Oh, and I guess I should have said this. It had been mentioned to me that perhaps it was a gallbladder issue. So I had bought a whole bunch of food that I thought was good for gallbladder. I'm not going to get into what it was, but it was not good for gallbladder. And you've seen my videos, you know that I have biliary dyskinesia, so my gallbladder was an issue, but that's another story. I'm going to tell that once I finally have my diagnosis for what's wrong with my stomach. But the thing is, the gallbladder, generally, carbs are easier for your body to digest, at least for your gallbladder, because they're not full of fat. And so I was eating a ton of carbs. I don't know how high my blood sugar was when I was eating these carbs, but I do know that I went in and my doctor said, okay, this sounds like something that I've not heard of before. I'm going to send you to general surgery, but before I do that, insurance is going to require me to do a bunch of tests. So I'm going to take your blood, we're going to check your blood sugar, which I know is going to be fine, we're going to check your A1C, which I know is good. No, she didn't check my A1C. She checked my blood sugar, which she reassured me she knew was going to be fine. She checked different sodium levels, potassium, all of that stuff, which she was sure was going to be fine, but this is what insurance had to do. And I went home, but instead of going home first, I was like, I'm hungry, I'm going to get a burrito. So I got a burrito. I ate the burrito, and I still didn't feel good. I was just laying there. I felt like absolutely horrible. And then I got a call saying, go to the emergency room. That's basically what they got called. They said, your blood sugar is over 500. This is an emergency. If you can see, if your vision is clear enough for you to be able to be safe, go to the emergency room. If your vision is not clear enough to be safe, either get someone to take you or call an ambulance. You are having an emergency. They know that you are coming. They know why you are coming. They will get you in as soon as you get there. And so I call my friend whose daughter has diabetes, and I say, hey, I'm going to the emergency room. I have a blood sugar of over 500. And he said, get off the phone, put your shoes on, go. Don't talk to me. Don't text anyone. You can text people when you get to the emergency room. You can call people when you get to the emergency room. You need to get to the emergency room right now. You could be dying. Now, thankfully, when I got to the emergency room, my blood sugar was still high. It had climbed 50 points, so instead of being 525, it was now 575. But the very lucky thing was that it did not get higher than that. So I got in, and there apparently was some discussion about admitting me, but, you know, this is COVID. They didn't have any beds, so I didn't get admitted. Instead, I got a bag of a bag of saline, and I got a pill of metformin. So I got 500 milligrams of metformin. I didn't get any insulin. I didn't get anything other than basically telling me to drink water, but not so much water, because over the weekend I had been unbearably thirsty. So if you see this is my water cup. I had literally 10 of these a day. I was so thirsty. I couldn't get out of the bathroom. And that should have been a big red flag for me, because obviously whenever your blood sugar is high, you get really thirsty. Especially when it's like super high, where you are in basically a diabetic episode. There's diabetic ketoacidosis, and there's another one called, it's HHS. I don't remember how to say it, but you get really, really thirsty. You get really tired. You have to go to the bathroom because you're so thirsty. You're drinking so much water, and then you're voiding it. You're peeing it out because you're drinking so much water that your body doesn't have time to actually use the water. Now, what I've learned since then is that whenever I have a blood sugar high, I normally have like an eighth of a teaspoon of salt, which is a tiny amount of salt. It's about 16% of your daily recommended intake, and water, because the salt helps the water get absorbed. But I didn't know that at the time. It's something that I learned over time, and I learned that trick to pretty quickly lower my blood sugar whenever it was high. So yeah, I ended up going to the emergency room 2 days later because I once again had a blood sugar of over 500. But I don't know if it was that my hands were dirty or what, but when they checked me in the emergency room, I was under 300, which 300 to 400 is normally the baseline, go to the doctor. It took me about a month and a half to get my blood sugar back under control, back to a normal state. I had to go on insulin. I went on the maximum dose of metformin. And so I had all of this going on with my diabetes. My insulin was changing. I was learning to give myself shots. I was learning to take medicine, to take this metformin. I mean, I take mental health medicine, but, taking this medicine to know, if I don't take it, I could die. That was a lot for me. It was incredibly stressful. It was incredibly upsetting. I didn't know what to do. I felt so alone. I cried. I felt like failure. I was angry because I gave myself diabetes. I was angry because the people in the emergency room talked to me as if I was someone who was non-compliant. They didn't understand. When I said, I don't have diabetes, they said, well, obviously you do, your blood sugar is this high. They just didn't understand. And for me, that was really stressful and really scarring. And please don't think that I'm saying this about all the nurses. There are amazing nurses at my local hospital. I was in the hospital at the beginning of last month, and they took such good care of me, the person who's super medically nervous about everything. They took really good care of me, but that didn't change the fact that I was just super overwhelmed and angry and upset and hurting and in tears because I didn't want to be diabetic. I had gone so long, I even had people think that I was diabetic even though I wasn't, and I was dealing with really bad with internalized fat phobia. I still deal with internalized fat phobia, and I was just absolutely in tears. I didn't know what to do. I felt like a horrible person, which, by the way, if you have diabetes, it has nothing to do about whether you're a good person or a bad person. It's something that happens. I have multiple medical conditions, and having medical conditions doesn't make you a bad person. Even if you are a smoker and you end up with COPD or asthma or whatever, that doesn't make you a bad person. And I think that that's the main thing that I had to learn dealing with diabetes, is that it's something that happens. And, I could sit around and feel sorry for myself all day, or I can check my blood sugar, I can give myself my insulin, I can make sure I take my metformin, I can watch what I eat. Well, I watch what I eat because of my stomach condition more than because of my diabetes, but, you can do all of the things right and live a long, happy life, or you could pout, or you can feel bad, or you can do all of these things that are just distractions. And I think that's what I learned over this past year, is that I could sit around feeling sorry for myself. And don't get me wrong, I definitely have moments where I break down, where I call my mom crying because I'm angry, because I can't eat anything, because I'm sick, because I don't feel well, because I have stomach cramps, whatever. I call my mom crying over it. But also, I've learned that if all I did was cry about it and complain about it and be angry about how life isn't fair, I wouldn't be anywhere. I probably wouldn't even be here. I would have I would have died from diabetes because I would have been so angry about how unfair life is that I wouldn't have wanted to take care of myself. And that's something you can't do. You have to continuously move forward when you have a chronic illness. You have to get up every day and take care of it. You have to get up and check your blood sugar, even though it kind of gives you the well, I can't see them, they're not as much now, but even though it gives you dots on your fingers from where you've checked your blood sugar so many times, even though it's frustrating to have to give yourself shots, to have people make assumptions about what someone with diabetes can and can't eat just because they've heard something, you know, it's all really frustrating and annoying. But I've learned that you just have to get up and move on, keep going. Alright guys, well, that is my 1 year journey with diabetes. That's the story of how I was diagnosed with diabetes. I hope you liked it. The next 2 videos, or maybe you already saw one, but there'll be 2 videos that I'm filming on the Illness Fakers community. I'm going to be doing one on a very damaging video, and I wrote a script for that. And then I'm going to be doing something else. So when I looked at my research project, I kind of had it lined out where I did talk about the chronic illness influencers. I don't know who all I'm going to mention. I know for sure Jackie, Amy Lee Fisher, obviously those 2 are kind of the big ones. Also, The Raw Life, so Paul and Janice, Bethany, Danny, and Ash. Those are kind of the 6 that I'm thinking of right now, and I'm going to do a video talking about them, their illness, their story, all of that, and then do a video talking about how Illness Fakers attacks them. Jackie, there's actually going to be a 3rd video. It's going to be called, like, Jack's Legacy, because unfortunately, you know, she's been dead for, you know, 3 years, and they still talk about her. They still use her tag. They still just mention her in horrible ways. And that's kind of where I think that series is going. Let me know if you have any more ideas for that series. So, alright, well, take care, guys. Bye-bye.